Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. I have lived now in, I think it's 6 countries that have actually been like, a home for me over the years. And then a bunch of others that, you spend a couple months or something in at a given time. And one of the things that I think is really important is the acclimatization in the place that you go to. So it's really easy to go somewhere and not appreciate the fullness of it, to be in a situation where, it's uncomfortable, it's new, it's like, there might be challenges there. And there's one thing more than anything else that I have noticed is super important in terms of maximizing the experience, in terms of being able to put you into a great position, in being able to provide you with a safety net, in terms of all these different things. And so I wanted to talk a little bit today about that thing. In other words, what is the most important thing that you should do every time you move to a foreign country? And this really probably applies if you move to a different city as well, but in particular, if you move to another country. So we're going to discuss that today. Before we get started, I would like to ask you to give your suggestions on what you think, based on your experiences of where you've gone, whether it's relocating to cities or countries, etc. What would you say is the most important thing to do when you get there? I'm sure there's going to be lots of crowdsourced ideas, so go and put them in the comments below and read other people's comments, see the suggestions they have, and hopefully that will be a really useful resource. This being said, this time I'm going to share mine, so let's dive in. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notification bell. Thank you for your support, really appreciate it. If you'd like help with these subjects of relocating to foreign countries, getting residency permits, citizenships, international tax optimization, paying the lowest legal amount of tax possible, setting up companies and bank accounts, and all these different things, please reach out to me. You can book a call, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below, or you can send a message through our websites, offshorecitizen.net and offshorecapitalist.com. All right, so I'll be curious to read your comments and find out what you were thinking was most important. But to me, it is by far building relationships. I remember being in a fairly new country, and I'd had some people who were with me, some family members, and they left. And then like a day or two later, I had tremendous back problems. And it was like terrifying, it was debilitating. My one leg wasn't able to support me properly. I just had super, super pain. And it was kind of scary, frankly. And I remember contacting, in other countries, I had chiropractors and friends and things like this. And in this country, I didn't, right? I didn't have that. And so I was contacting those people to say, what should I do? You're experts, tell me where I should go, etc., what I can do to reduce this. But I didn't have the set of relationships that provided a safety net. Now, if you're in a situation where you're in your home country, especially your hometown or someplace you grew up, usually you have friends, you have family, you have people that you know, etc. And so when things go wrong, you can contact these people. And this might be anything from you need emotional support to you want things to do, you want to discover resources. The point is, the most important thing by far, I think, is relationships. Sometimes people will ask me about living in Bulgaria, and they'll say, hey, what did you think about living in Bulgaria? And the answer that I always give them is, for me, I have a wonderful social circle of phenomenal people who I met there, and we have great relationships and we have a great time, and so I always enjoy it. I always, I love to spend time with those people. I love to get together and do different things with them. That is worth so much to the overall experience, just those relationships in themselves. But beyond those relationships in themselves, there's something else which happens, which is you're just much better equipped because you have a network, but each of those people has a network, which kind of expands your reach of resources and just simplifies and makes life so much easier. So I had some friends move to Bulgaria a couple of years ago, and a big part of the reason, we had a long discussion, I was kind of working with them over a period of time to figure out where would be the best place for them to go, because they were considering some different options. And one of the things I told them was, honestly, under the circumstances, I think you should come here. Why? Is it because it's the best place? No, it's because I'm here. And what I mean by that is I have resources and connections and things like this that will help you make it so much easier for you to get set up in that place. And it turns out, there's a bunch of positive things as well. And, so I wouldn't say go to, the most terrible place in the world or in some war zone because of that. But all things considered, having this set of people who who can help you is a really big thing. Now, the great part was after they moved in, they started also making friends and connections and things like that. And so then there's a feedback loop of, now I need something, and I might go to them and say, hey, who do you know who can help with this? And they've gone through some experiences and they can recommend someone. And so as we expand that, you don't need necessarily that many people. I would say 4 or 5 close friends is plenty. But I think it's super, super important to make a point of establishing local friendships. So how do you do that? Let's go through some quick things. When I went, so first of all, I think you can participate in forums and Facebook groups and things like this. There's usually ones locally for the place that you're going. And so that's a good way to start. If you're single, you can use dating apps and get to know people dating. That's helpful. Again, it's kind of like you can go out on dates and they can show you some cool places, and it's a good synergy there. Beyond that, you're also in a situation where you can say, okay, what about the services that you're going to need? So I needed lawyers, I needed real estate agents, I needed people for transportation, I needed etc., right? Chiropractor, naturopath, doctors, etc. So what I would do is I would make a point of not using one. I would try and use as many as possible. So for example, when it comes to realtors, right? I was looking for an apartment, and so I said, okay, I'm going to contact a bunch of realtors because there's a certain optionality there. I don't know who's going to be good, who I'm going to connect with well. And I looked at it not from the perspective of, hey, I'm getting a place. I looked at it from the perspective of, I'm building a relationship, and there's so much more that can come from that relationship than just this one transaction. Turned out, most of them it wasn't a good fit or whatever, but I found one person who happened to be really great, and we became friends, and we would go out and things like this. So that's one thing that I think people should be more cognizant of. I try to always make friends with the people I'm interacting with. So whether it's my hairdresser, whether it's sometimes I have favorite restaurants I go to and I'll get to know the waiter, whether it is my chiropractor or whatever, I try to build a relationship with those people that extends beyond simply the service that they're providing. And I think that's really useful. So how do I do that? I mean, I just invite them to go out, right? Hey, listen, we're meeting to view this property. Afterwards, hey, why don't you come and we'll buy you lunch, right? Why don't we go out and get together? Hey, listen, let me take an interest in your family, in your friends, in your life outside of that. What are your other hobbies? What are your other interests? Where do you like to go? Cool, let's go do that together. And then the next thing is introducing those people to other people. There's a lot to be said for, I think, in terms of bonding when you make money together, but also, you kind of connect more people. So being somebody who connects people to people is really valuable. And so doing the same thing, very, very helpful. So those are kind of a few things. The other part that I think is really important to consider is that it does take work to build relationships. I think that if you don't take the attitude of, hey, I'm in a new place, I'm going to consciously work on building relationships, making friendships, etc., then you're probably not going to. This means following up, right? So for example, maybe you meet somebody, you go out for dinner as a group or something, or you participate in some activity, maybe you go and play soccer, or you go into some other sport together. Soccer, that's football for the people in Europe, or most parts of the world. Anyway, so maybe you're going to meet some people. Okay, I'm going to make a point of taking their number. I'm going to make a point of asking about them. I'm going to make a point of contacting them. I'm going to make a point of hosting activities that I'm then going to invite them to. So I'm going to deliberately plan things like, maybe, hey, let's all go to an escape room, and I'll invite 10 people. A bunch of them won't show up, that's fine. We're going to, have a Christmas party. I'm going to invite a bunch of people. I'm going to, these types of things that I can utilize as ways to bring people together, because we build relationships over repeated joint experiences, right? And I always think there's a book called Give and Take. So, givers get, and the best way to have friends is to be a friend, right? So that kind of thing, these are probably super basic and, most people probably know them, but I just think it's really, really important to emphasize, because I do see a lot of people who go to a new place and they're maybe naturally introverted. I was historically, a long time back, fairly introverted, or at least kind of didn't have the social confidence that I wanted to engage with strangers, etc. But I think it's really worth stepping outside of our comfort zone to do that, because the richness of life is so much more important. And I'll end with this. The largest ever study on human welfare, I forget how many thousands of people it's like over 70 years or something, looking at what is it that is the biggest predictor of health, of happiness, of success, etc., concluded that the single most important thing was quality relationships. And so, yeah, it's just, as we live in turbulent times, etc., as we don't know what the future brings, as we want to, there's sometimes this idea of going to a place that's better, but there's also something to be said about making the place where you are better. And I don't mean that in the sense of certainly, contributing and growing that. Okay, that's one side of it. But also it's just having a better experience for you. And partially, we bring ourselves wherever we go, so the attitude that we have really matters. But beyond that, it's also, who it's with, and the quality of relationships we have just makes such a difference. So anyway, I hope that helps. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I'm going to look forward to seeing you on the next video.